Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back. And we're just checking to make sure that we can be heard in the Zoom webinar. Matthew or Jake, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you well, Sam. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Chair Crandall will be able to begin on time.
All right. PM, thank you for coming back and joining us. We are at item 6.7, public hearing considering of appeal AB 22-05 of Planning Commission's approval of major use permit UP 19-42 and initial study IS 19-61 for cannabis cultivation, applicant Bottle Rock Farms, FJA Trust, located at 9900 and 100-300 Bottle Rock Road, Kelseyville, APN 011-057-22 and 23. And with that, give the floor to Director Turner.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce our contractor from...
Sorry.
It's been a little bit. You might want to swear in all the witnesses again, sir.
Sorry. Kimberly, if you can swear in the witnesses, and if you're here on this item, please stand and raise your hand. If you're in on the Zoom mechanism here, please take your camera off and unmute, raise your right hand, and swear in with Kimberly.
That means you. Yeah.
With your right hand raised, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes.
So I know we have a hand up. I think that they wanted to swear in. Do we need to at least unmute them and hear the I do, or is the hand up good enough? I just know that they...
If I were you, I'd unmute them long enough just to confirm that they've taken the oath.
Amy, I see your hand raised. Did you, if you can unmute, do you concur? Did you swear in?
I concur. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. With that.
Thank you. Mireya Turner with Community Development, handing over the update to the Board of Supervisors from activity that has taken place since the last hearing of the appeal, or since the board approved the appeal, to our Lake Hope planner, Byron Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, Byron Turner. I'm going to give a brief staff report. On July 28th, the Planning Commission approved major use permit 19-42 for Bottle Rock Farms, FJA. This decision was appealed by the board to the board per the procedures in the Lake County Ordinance. This project has been around for some time. The EA early activation was first granted in 2020. There was a second early activation granted in 2021 prior to the board enacting a moratorium on early activations. The project was originally heard by the Planning Commission in April 28th of 2022, where it was continued to June and subsequently continued to July 28th. Leading up to the meeting of July 28th, staff had recommended approval of this project. However, a site inspection on the 27th revealed that cannabis was being cultivated on the site at that time. Staff was therefore unable to recommend approval to the Planning Commission due to the visual observation of a violation on the site. Since this time, all violations have been remedied, and therefore staff is able to again support the project that staff was not able to at the time. This concludes the very brief staff report. The applicant and members of the public are here to provide further information. The board options are found in your board memo, and I'm available for any questions.
If I could just add to that a little bit, the two violations that were noted by staff at the Planning Commission hearing. One was plants in the ground or active cultivation of cannabis, and then the second one was grading violations that were not covered. And both of those have been cleared. The plants have been removed. This has been verified by staff, and Ms. Berg did pay the $500 grading violation fee, so they're both cleared.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Pyska.
Was there a trenching violation, or was that included with the grading violation?
That was included in the grading.
Okay, great.
All right. Supervisor Sabatier.
I believe the buildings are gone too, because that was part of the Planning Commission's conversation, that there were some illegal structures, but I believe that they're gone too. Is that correct? At least that's what I've been told.
Yes.
Okay. I do have some questions that there was some confusion, and I don't understand it enough, and I'd like to better understand it, is the 3-acre conversion. I know that was part of the original postponement, I think, back in April, where there was a review for that, and it says less than 3 acres is typically what that is. In reviewing the project, before 2019, nothing was graded other than where the home is, which is kind of in the middle of the two agricultural sites. Where does the 3-acre conversion fit, and what grading permits were the grading permits obtained in order to clear the areas for the 2 agricultural sites?
Start with that. The 3-acre conversion is a a CAL FIRE permit that's not issued by the county, it's issued by CAL FIRE. In addition to that, though, Lake County does have its own rules requiring a grading permit in addition to that 3-acre conversion permit when there is tree clearing. It's independent, but it's a separate process. And in this case, the less than 3-acre conversion was granted by the state, but the grading permit was never followed up on. Since that time, the grading permit has been issued by the county.
Okay. And again, I see 2 sites. So did they get 2 conversions, or, because what I haven't understood yet is if they're on early activation, and early activation prohibits grading, prohibits building of structures, at what point did they get their grading permit for the other site that they have for their cultivation sites?
I think it was both sites at the same time, and the grading permits have been issued since in the last few months.
Okay, so it covers the entirety of what was cleared? Okay. Well, I'm glad that the violations are cleared. I know that this seems, it is a formality, and it does seem like one, but to make sure that if we approve a project, it's to ensure that things meet the guidelines of what projects should meet in order to get the approval. I know that I brought this to the board for review, and at that point in time, there were some violations. Obviously, they've taken the time to deal with that. I wish that there had been a continuance at the time, but I wanted to make sure that we held the integrity of the Planning Commission's process together so that other projects would not follow the same suit and be able to get approvals when there's obvious violations. And so I think those were very obvious to me in reviewing the Planning Commission discussion. And so that is why I brought it to the board for discussion.
Vice Chair Pyska.
Yep. So I went out to visit the site last week, and they had just mowed down all of the cannabis plants. That was the first and biggest violation that was outstanding. And I know that was a difficult decision for them to make, but it was the right move. And I think this is a great project. It's in a great location. And I'm really happy that we're in a place right now where all the violations have been cleared and we can move forward.
I see Andrew's hand up. Should I call on him, or Andrew? Yes, Andrew, if you have something to add, we would appreciate it.
Yes, I would like to add that the less than 3-acre conversion exemption was issued and completed prior to submitting the application for the use permit itself. So all of the grading, all of the requirements That happened before the submission of the application, which establishes the baseline conditions that we do our environmental analysis on, including subsequent grading that we look at with our use permit, our use projects. So,
What's that? Ms. Grant?
Was the last speaker sworn in, just to make
Oh,
sure?
that's right.
This is an appeal.
Did you swear in, Andrew?
I did say the I do. I believe I was unmuted at that time.
Okay, thank you. All right. And so is there any comments from the board? Not seeing any, I'll go ahead and open it to the public. I see a hand up in Zoom from Amy. And then if there's anyone in the chambers, please come up to the microphone when you're ready. Okay, she put her hand down, and I see Jennifer's hand up now. So Jennifer, I don't know, did you swear in, Jennifer?
I did.
Okay. All right. State your name for the record, and we'll time you from there.
Jennifer Smith, good afternoon. It's no secret that I support this project. It was zoned right. It's been operating with no issues in the first 2 years of its early activation. And unfortunately, they found themselves up against a deadline and made a mistake. The project has cleared any violations. They've atoned for that mistake. They're a great addition to the cannabis industry in Lake County, and they're a great addition to Lake County as a whole. And I hope that the board will see fit to approve this use permit one last final time. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the other person put their hand down. So if there's anyone in the chambers that would like to speak on this, please come up, state your name for the record, and we'll go from there.
How's it going? I'm Skylar Healy. I've lived in Lake County, Kelseyville for 3 years, and I've worked for Jen, Fred, and Amiel for 3 years now. Man, I had a whole speech, and it's kind of hard now. But yeah, I definitely agree that we employ, I think, 40 to 50 local workers in the harvest season, right? And we have a big impact on the community directly. I see it. I live there. I talk to a lot of locals, a lot of businesses. We spend a lot of our money here. And yeah, and I really think that everything that they're doing, my experience with them, working for them, is great. Anybody who will tell you that have worked with us is great. Yeah, they do a lot for this community that is not really seen, maybe, but I do see it directly. We employ a lot of people. We spend a lot of our money here locally, and I think approving this project would be great for the community, personally. So, thank you.
Thank you. I did not get sworn in. You did not get sworn in? No. All right, thank you, Kimberly.
With your right hand raised, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Joan Moss. I have a few questions. I want to know if the people that got to the site and saw the violations got a permit from a judge, and if they had a warrant for a search.
They were invited on the property is what I was...
You were invited?
That's what one of the gentlemen behind you said. Yes.
Okay, I don't understand the appeal process, and I don't understand, and I haven't read the law that allows the supervisors to file an appeal, and a citizen that doesn't have the money cannot file an appeal. I just want to say that. Maybe I'll read, and maybe I'll find out. Do you have any answer?
It's within the code of eligible, and yes, there is a cost, and we paid that in the time that staff has spent to prepare for the appeal. By the budgets that are already created, we didn't give a specific check like it would be if it was a private person that was appealing, but every appeal process and every process that we follow costs money, and so therefore, that's how it worked.
I heard you say that supervisors don't need to pay when you decided to
I
appeal.
don't know if that was said, but does that answer your question?
Okay, well, I just still have questions. I don't understand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Grant, did you want to add anything?
I was just going to say the question and answers aren't actually testimonial in nature, so.
All right. All right. If there's anyone else that would like to speak on this item?
Hi, my name is Fred Friedland. I am one of the owners of Bottle Rock Farms. Over the past 2 years, I've helped prepare the property for nearly a dozen site inspections from various government agencies, state licensing, and Lake County Planning Department. As a team, we've always strived to maintain a compliant project and just passed another state inspection on August 5th of this year. Amiel and I have gone above and beyond to clean up Nancy Drive. We've gone down in the ravines. We pulled 5 dump trailers of washing machines, mattresses, done way more than we needed to make this a good project. All of our neighbors like and respect us. There was a nice couple here who helped us do the bees on our property, and they were here for support, but I think she had a doctor's appointment. There was a problem house on the road who was like basically selling meth. We stopped pretty much 95% of the traffic. All the other neighbors came over, said they're appreciative of us, and I think everybody really likes us on the road. Our project is in the perfect area for a cannabis farm. It is completely out of the sight from Bottle Rock Road. None of the traffic heading to our farm has to pass by another residence, so there is no excess dust or traffic for any of our neighbors to deal with. We keep the road in great condition even during the winter. We are the type of farmers you want here in Lake County for the long haul. Thank you, and it would be an honor if you gave us this permit today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. I see another gentleman coming up. State your name.
My name's Amiel Needham. I'm another owner of Bottle Rock Cannabis. I'm just going to go over a few things of why our project would be a good one for you guys to approve. We've been working 3 years on our process to produce high quality, low cost cannabis. We've invested heavily in our infrastructure in the county. Also, the cannabis market is down, and we have managed to stay busy and to continue to pay our taxes and to support the local economy through all of this. So I just think this is a good business for you guys to stand behind, and I'm sorry that this last incident, it was an unfortunate incident. We kind of got painted in a corner. And so you guys know, the decisions that you make, so we laid off everybody and we're selling our farm equipment, and we hope we can come back next year. So we tried really hard, and yeah, that's it, man. So it's over for this year. And our labor manager, that's 100 people for harvest. He's not going to be we're not going to be able to pay him for. So hopefully with this permit we get from you guys, we can come back strong next year and give it a shot. But yeah, that's it for us for this year. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing anyone else get up. Yes, there is. Okay.
Hi there, I'm Jennifer Berg, and I'm the applicant. I know that we made a mistake with having the plants in the ground because we had a delivery early and our timing didn't coordinate with our hearing dates, and it was a struggle to get that figured out. But I hope that you guys see that we are making an effort to follow the rules and regulations and clear up the violations. I do agree with my colleagues that our project is in a really good location as far as not creating a nuisance or bothering other neighbors with noise, dust, odor, which can be a big complaint in the industry. I feel like our other operators in the surrounding community do support us too. We do have a nice project which should serve as a nice example for other cultivators coming into the industry, just how we keep our project and best practices. We have passed all of our state inspections, and we are in good standing with the state, and I hope that you guys can look past our mistake and improve our project today so that we have a shot at next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? With that, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board, and we'll go from there. Supervisor Spacchi?
I feel there's a need for at least a few more comments since we are kind of starting this all over from scratch, as Ms. Grant keeps reminding us as de nouveau. I see nothing wrong with the environmental CEQA report that was provided, the hydrology report. The project is in the right location, in my opinion. All of those things that go along with approving the initial study, in my opinion, there's no issues there. Wanted to make sure that we have standards of what we're following. I know that things are very uncomfortable and difficult for the group that's in front of us, but I think that if we deviate from that standard, that we're hurting ourselves as a county also. And so we all make decisions, and we all have to deal with the consequences of decisions, and I hope that you guys can't come back next year. So I'm ready to move forward.
Yeah, you know, the same here, and like Supervisor Spate just said, you know, my decisions last time was just to make sure that, you know, we put those rules into place when I first came on the board to make sure that they were followed. We're trying to establish this industry, and it was really concerning to have someone stand up and say, well, we had to make a decision and we're going to go forward. I understand it was a mistake. My concern, though, I'll be honest, what about the next time we got to make a decision? You know, what's going to happen there? We're trying to set a precedent for this industry. We want to bring it into Lake County and make sure we follow those things. I know it's hard to do that sometimes, you know, but we're here for decisions that were made. Yes, our process may have been a little long, timing didn't work out, but sometimes you got to figure that out moving forward. I think that was where I was really stuck at last time as we move forward. We're really trying to set the tone here. We want as many proper operators of this industry in Lake County as possible. Not everybody's going to get that chance. And so holding that line, I think, is really important for this board to do, not only for ourselves, for the business that we're trying to establish in the cannabis industry, but also for our constituents that are on the other side of this, that are being affected by it. And we all know that there's many different factors that come into that. But we need to take everybody's, you know, livelihood and effect of their communities into place, and holding the line and strengthening our ordinances and everything we're trying to do. That's what we need to do. So these aren't easy decisions. I voted to bring in the cannabis ordinance as one of the new members of the board with our previous supervisor Scott, to get something established. I know we got work to do, but I would just, you know, for me, it was the decision where, you know, someone stood in front and said, well, I just had to make that decision, and that's what I did. So let's try and just get that better as we move forward with this industry. That's where we need to be, because I hate for us to be back at this table with another group, or even the same group of, oh, well, we just had to make that decision, because it does affect everybody. I know our decisions affect everybody, but also the business owners trying to establish here in Lake County. You know, those decisions affect people too. So anyway, I'm ready to move forward, though.
I do want to say something, and this is something that I know I've learned from code enforcement. And if we end up in a situation that we were unaware of, and we recognize that, wait, I might be passing that line where I'm doing something wrong, I think the first thing to do is call up your planner and say, I have a situation here, what should I do? And I think that I'm saying this for everyone else, not just the group that's in front of us, but we all come with random circumstances that we didn't anticipate would be the situation that we're in. And I think the best, most transparent, most productive way to move through those obstacles is to contact the people that can find those violations and have those consequences dealt to you. Contact them and say, hey, what do I do? What's my next step so I don't get myself in a bind? And I don't think that happened. I'm unaware that if it did happen, but I don't think that happened. And I know that for a lot of times with our code enforcement, that can save a lot of problems. It can help with extensions, just so we can better understand what the scenario is and help you through the process, because it's not always the easiest to go about it alone either. So just for everyone else that's dealing with the unexpected.
Yeah, I know this was difficult and stretched out far longer than anybody wanted it to, but we do have to maintain our credibility and strengthen the ordinance, as you say, Supervisor Simon. So I want to make the motion that we deny the appeal AB 2205, confirming the decision that the Planning Commission to approve major use permit UP 1942 applied for by Bottle Rock Farms, FJ Trust, on a property located at 9900 and 10030 Bottle Rock Road, Kelseyville, California, as further described as APNs 011-057-22 and 011-057-23.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you for the report, and thank you for coming in with us. All right. Next, we have 6.8, consideration of license agreement between the County of Lake and PG&E for the temporary use of a portion of Lucerne Harbor Park as a community resource center in the event of a public safety power shutoff. And with that, we have Public Services Director Lars Ewing. And then I see Melinda Rivera also on Zoom with us.
Very good. All right, thank you. Okay, Lars Ewing, Public Services Director, and I appreciate you letting me know that PG&E is on. I hope that OES, Office of Emergency Services, may be up there. I
did see Gavin earlier.
Okay,
There's Brian.
very good. So I'll introduce this item. Those two agencies are also going to be able to provide some information and maybe answer any questions that are there. But I'll kind of summarize really what brought us here. PG&E brought us here. PG&E reached out to the Office of Emergency Services to request specifically a portion of Lucerne Harbor Park to be used as a community resource center or a customer resource center. Both terms I've heard. In short, that resource center would be set up in the event of a PSPS. It's advanced planning for them, so they're looking to enter into a license agreement, so they would have essentially the right to use that portion of Lucerne Harbor Park. And I say that portion. There's an exhibit in the proposed agreement that depicts it's about 12 or 15 parking spots, which is a good portion of the park, and that's part of the reason that we're here, is just to ensure that the board has an opportunity to consider the impacts to the public. But they would have the right to use that portion of the park to establish that community resource center, which I look forward to PG&E maybe describing a little bit about what that is. But most people around Lake County have probably seen some of those set up. Essentially, we're talking about tents, or a tent, likely a large tent, with generators and opportunity to provide a place for people to plug in their cell phones and get some water, that sort of thing. But I'll defer to PG&E to maybe define that a bit more. There are some more specifics that are spelled out here, and I'll just summarize those just for the benefit of the board and the public. That center, in the event that it is opened, and I can't say when it would be, right? Obviously, that's dependent upon any disaster. But if it was opened, what PG&E has informed us is that the center would be available to the public between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. The area would be staffed and secured by PG&E 24 hours a day. The duration would be dependent upon the event, but the anticipation is that it would be anywhere between 2 days to 10 days. But obviously, that can ebb and flow. The main reason for this, though, is for PG&E to have that advanced right to use that portion of the park. I referenced earlier that there's an impact to the county, at least to the public, of the use of this of the park. While the rest of the park would remain available, there's certainly an impact to parking. That is probably 75% of the parking stalls in the park. In exchange, the county would receive a daily rate of $200 from PG&E for the use of that site. So with that said, that really summarizes the proposed license agreement. I want to thank County Council for reviewing and providing some input. But with that said, I really would turn it over to the board to maybe ask any questions, and most of them I would deflect onto PG&E. The last thing I'll say is that OES and well, County OES and Public Services, meaning OES and me, are here presenting it because, as I understand it from OES, this is something that they are recommending. That's not for me to say. That's for them to say. But I think in consideration for what is the benefit of this proposed project, I'm going to really defer to OES. So I'm sitting here really as the steward on your behalf of that property that is right now a public park, and this would potentially change the nature of that park for a period of time. So I'll wrap up my statements and turn it over to the board.
All right. I see Melinda on, so I'll go ahead and, Melinda, if you would like to add anything to this, or...
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Board Chair Crandall and the members of the Board of Supervisors, and thank you, Director Ewing, as well, for bringing this to the board. I am joined by my colleague, Public Safety Specialist Rich Noonan, and apologies, we were a last-minute substitution for you, so apologies that I am not there in person this afternoon. We learned very recently that we would be here today for this item, so here to answer questions. I think we will be able to answer any questions related to the community resource centers, how they function and operate. Director Ewing is correct that we had previously had a location in Lucerne that we had in contract to operate as a community resource center. For last year, we were not able to renew that contract, so we reached out to our county partners in County Office of Emergency Services and in the Sheriff's Department and asked them for their suggestions for another location in Lucerne that would serve as hopefully a good location for our community in Lucerne in the event that we would need to stand up a community resource center. As Director Ewing previously referenced, our standard hours are usually 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. About 24 hours before we open a CRC, we will post it on our website, the hours that a CRC would be open, the locations where we would have, a community resource center, what locations across Lake County where we would open the community resource center, and the hours of operation and services that will be provided. Normally we have a third-party staffer there who can answer questions related to PG&E, specific to that event that we are responding to, whether it's a public safety power shutoff or another type of disaster. Usually we have charging stations there. We sometimes have bottled water when we're able to, snacks, other items really there to just kind of provide the community with a place to come and recharge, get a little bit of respite during any type of disaster event that has impacted their power. Where we have the opportunity to at least set up the tents and activate the community resource center. So generally speaking, those are for public safety power shutoffs, but they could be activated for other disasters as needed. Happy to take any questions you might have.
Supervisor Sabati.
Thank you for this. I think being prepared is always great, so having this contract in place will be useful when, hopefully it doesn't ever happen, but it probably will, so that we can be prepared for that. But my question is for Director Ewing. I believe I saw in the contract or the agreement that it's $250 a day. Is that correct?
I have 200 in my memo, and if it was 250, then
I could have it wrong.
Okay, 200. It is 200.
Okay. Does that go to like a general fund for parks, or does that go back to Lucerne Harbor Park?
It would, to be honest, it likely goes into the county general fund. I don't think there's anything that would be different than that. I would have to defer to the administrative experts, but I don't think it would go anywhere but there.
Okay. So I guess that would be a different conversation in the future for looking at like enterprise funds. So if somebody rents the park, it goes back to our parks rather than going into general fund, because that would make more sense to me.
Well, and what we could do is earmark the funds to be used specifically to go back to Lucerne Harbor Park. I mean, I am happy to do whatever the board would choose to. An enterprise fund might not be the best fit, but something that would dedicate the funds to Lucerne Harbor Park. I'm sure we can come up with some mechanism to make that happen.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of doing that. I don't know what the complexity is of creating that, but I think that if a park is being rented or utilized, that we are able to, for the wear and tear, be able to put that money back into those parks. But again, I think that could be a larger conversation for all of our parks, because I know many different parks get rented for different purposes. Yep. Thank you.
Well, you asked it, so I don't have to. Go ahead, Supervisor Simon.
No, I want to thank everyone thinking about putting this together for the North Shore. I did have one question, and maybe you could answer it. Where was the location last year? Or Melinda, could you?
I do know that one thing I do know is the Lucerne Harbor Park during the Mendocino Complex was highly used for a place for people looking for respite when we were during the complex in 2018. That was a spot where everybody was. Just giving that insight. As for the site last year, I thought Upper Lake High School, Robinson Rancheria, and I think Clear Lake.
Like
Go ahead, sir.
PG&E can answer that.
Yeah. Rich, I see you have your hand up. If you can unmute. Rich Noonan.
Yeah. Yes, okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Really appreciate your time today. And again, like Melinda said, we'd have been there in person, but this, we just learned about this yesterday afternoon. So the location last year was a New Paradigm Church, and I'm not sure, there was some sort of an issue there. It wasn't anything on PG&E's side of things, and I really don't know what happened. They just decided that they did not want to continue with the contract, so it left myself and Lake OES trying to find another site. Now, the parameters for these sites, they have to be ADA compliant, and in Lucerne, the park was pretty much our best and only option. It's also very advantageous to have the community resource centers located in somewhere that's pretty visible, and an area that everybody knows where it is. So, while there are other sites around Lucerne that are fairly close, should an event occur where we have to de-energize for public safety, it's better not to overload, the other sites, and having the site there on Lucerne would be really great for the citizens there and our customers as well. That's all I have.
So thank you for answering it. It was the New Paradigm College, not right? Isn't that what they were called?
Likely, and that's probably after it was sold, that the county sold that. So I can't comment one way or the other.
He was doing an agreement they were doing an agreement with the college. And it did.
I was just looking to see where that site was. I didn't know that, so it sounded like no one else kind of did either. So I was just wondering what happened with that contract. Obviously, I support the CRCs. We know our communities use them quite a bit, especially in South County. We've got a lot of experience with it. So, and all around the county, but, we know that's used. I did have one question just for PG&E, because I know that we do have a lot of these sites around the county. Hopefully this one's approved today. I'm in favor of it. But if there's any opportunities to not only bring these resources to our community while it's happening, but also to give opportunity maybe for employment for folks to work these centers from Lake County, instead of bringing people from outside of the county to work in these shelters, get trained, go through that process. I wonder if that's an opportunity as we continue to grow these in our area, that there's an opportunity for individual local folks to go on your guys' website, look to be hired for these things, and it might only be, hopefully it's only one weekend, and we can, can create an opportunity for someone who may need some work.
Yes, thank you, Supervisor Simon, for asking about this. So, yes, it is advertised widely through our subcontractor who operates these sites. And last year, when I visited the community resource centers when they were activated for public safety power shutoff events, I did encounter staff at multiple sites, both in South County and up at Clear Lake location, who were residents of Lake County, who live there. So there are people who are being hired who live in Lake County and who are staffing our community resource centers. We are very thankful for them.
If someone was looking to do that, where would they go? Would they go to the PG&E website, or is there a place, if someone's listening to today's meeting and says, man, I'd like to work one of those, or I need, a little extra income, where would they go to look at that?
That is a great question. Would it be okay if I followed up with the county public information officer to get him a link for that?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I will do so.
If I could add one other thing that was not in the memo, and that is the notice that PG&E would be giving us, because it is a concern at I guess I'll say at a tactical level. While they are, we're entering into this license agreement to say that they will use this space should the need arise. The agreement requires PG&E to give the county 8 hours advance notice, and if we cannot make the site available, we need to provide PG&E with a response no less than 4 hours prior to that 8-hour time block coming up. Muddling this a bit, but bottom line, there may be vehicles parked there that we can't get rid of. So there, we need to have a plan in place, or at least the board needs to recognize that things may happen that are beyond the county's control, and I think it's important for PG&E to understand that as well. That this is a public park. Things happen in the public park that are, to be honest, beyond the county's control, and should a vehicle be parked there, and we can't find the owner of that vehicle, it's going to present a challenge. If it's right in the middle of that space, it could present a challenge certainly to the county. I don't have an answer to what we should do to that. I just want to make sure that the board is aware of that potential. We will do our part. The county park staff will do our part to go out and ensure that we try to round up the owners of those vehicles. But I would hate for the county to be held responsible for, hey, within 8 hours we have to have that cleared. And so I think that's worth a discussion right here.
Go ahead, Supervisor.
The way that I looked at the agreement, it didn't call out space numbers or anything. Yeah, there's a little bit of a map with showing where it would be located, but I'm guessing there's flexibility put into that if you had to move it over a couple spaces, that's possible.
Well, as just from the Parks Director side of things, I would be flexible with that. It would be dependent upon PG&E's flexibility with that space, how much space they need, and what modifications might need to be made to the agreement to indicate that, maybe we make a square footage requirement that we can make available somewhere on that park. I will tell you that very rarely is that park, entirely packed that we couldn't find some space, but it's just something that if we want to ensure that the county is not held responsible for ensuring that well, it's not a rectangle, but that space is available during that time frame, that could present a challenge. So I don't have an answer. I just want to make sure that we have that discussion here.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Grant.
I think there are other things that we can do that will minimize that risk with regard to signage in the area, et cetera.
Thank you, Anita.
Any other questions? Sheriff Martin, I see you on. Did you have anything to add?
I think everything was covered. It sounded like this is going the way that it's presented. I would say I support this, as Director Ewing said. The OES and the Sheriff's Office are both in support of this. With all the public safety power shutoffs, we've asked PG&E to be more proactive in helping to mitigate the effects of it. And this is another example of one of those things that they've done. I think this is a good partnership, and we support it.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, just a quick question from Ms. Grant. When you say that that's possible to do within the confines of what is already stated within the agreement, or is there changes that are required?
I don't think there are any changes required. Thank you.
All right. I will open it up to the public. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on this item? All right. I'll bring it back to the board for action. It's in my district, so if someone can make the motion, I'd appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve PG&E CRC agreement for Lucerne Harbor Park.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Lars, and thank you, Melinda, Mr. Noonan, and Sheriff Martin, and Gavin Wells as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That will cover the timed items, if you want to call it that. But, so let's go to, did you say 3?
If it's possible, it's up to you.
All right.
I know that I've contacted specific individuals to be here, but I know we've also had a resident sitting here all morning long waiting, so that choice is in your hands.
All right, I'll go ahead and start with 7.2, discussion and possible direction to staff on continuing homeless shelter operations in Old Juvenile Hall. Supervisor Sabatier, you brought this forward, and I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So obviously we know that the Elijah House has shut down as of, I think, over the weekend, or don't know the specific date, might have been the 18th or something along those lines. But having a 24-hour homeless shelter, I think, is a huge benefit to our community, because if they're not in a shelter, if they're in a house or can be in a house, they probably would be. And so the shelter is for those that aren't able to find themselves in a approved, legitimate shelter. And so we need to continue those services, and we have very limited services. We have Hope Center, which has limited bed space. We have Project Restoration that has limited bed space, and both of those also have a specific criteria of what the tenants, and so this one was very wide open. It was a more like No Place Like Home, where there's not much of a criteria, really helping everybody that could be provided at bed space. And one of the conversations I've had, and I hope that Director Metcalf is with us online, one of the conversations I've had with Director Metcalf is he has been proactively speaking with other nonprofit agencies, trying to get them to say yes to taking over the operations over at the Old Juvenile Hall. But the major hurdle is funding. We were told through the grapevine that it was about $53,000 a month to be able to afford the bills and the salaries and everything for who was working there for the program to be successful. In the letter that we received for when they were letting us know that November 4th was their last, or September 4th was their last day of operation, I believe they said $65,000 to $70,000. There is money coming down the pike. Governor Newsom signed almost $10 billion worth of funding for homeless programs and sheltering, but they're just not released yet. As you know, we like to say that we're really happy that we have funding, but then you got to go through the bureaucratic process of the guidelines and criteria that you need to meet in order to obtain this funding. I would like to have the conversation on whether or not we would like to direct staff to come back to us on how do we continue these operations, and is this something that we're willing to put money towards to make sure that there's continuity rather than a full stop. Because there's nothing worse than providing assistance to those who are experiencing homelessness to then suddenly be put back into the experience of homelessness. That lack of continuity is more harmful than it is good. And so I would like to offer that we do have funding and we can direct staff to find it, and then have better conversations with other nonprofits who had interest but lacked the funding to be able to make this happen, that during the stopgap between now and when we get the funding access that the state of California is offering to us, that we continue to make sure and facilitate this program, or else it's back in our communities. And unfortunately, whether it's a NIMBY problem or not, there is impact to our communities when we eliminate these types of programs and bring things back into our county parks, into our properties that are vacant and more out of sight. But that's not the place these people belong. They belong in a shelter. And so I wanted to bring this conversation. I was really hoping that it would still be open until the 4th so that we can have this conversation and have better continuity, because saying that word doesn't quite make sense now that they're closed. But I still feel that the service is necessary and wanted to bring it to the board to have the discussion, because I think it's very possible to be able to afford a few months until we can get access to the state funding. And I don't know if Director Metcalf wants to add on to anything that I may have missed.
No, thank you, Supervisor Sabatier. Todd Metcalf, Director of Behavioral Services. I did want to add that there are some monies through the Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Grant. As a matter of fact, right now, as I'm speaking, there is a committee, the COC committee is reviewing 2 responses to the RFP that we sent out not that long ago. There's about $300,000 that can be used for a shelter. It's not specific to any particular site, but that's under review right now. It's $300,000, which could, if someone wants to take this on, and as you said, Supervisor Sabatier, it's over $50,000 a month to run operations at Old Juvenile Hall. But there are monies here for a shelter operation, but that's all I know. I'm not in that committee that's reviewing the two bids that we received. So there is hope, but yes, right now the Old Juvenile Hall facility has closed or is closing, and there will be not continuity of care until we figure out where these monies are going to go. And there is more, as you say. The governor is there's more money on the way. It would just be a matter of finding someone that could run the facility until those funds come down. I'm sure it would still be a competitive process that whomever operates the shelter would have to apply for these funds. So there's still that part of, it's not a guarantee, but I know all counties in the state will be entitled to certain funding for this type of operation.
Right. And there was a nonprofit that was sitting down and reviewing the ability to take that over. And again, the funding was the big hurdle. And I just want to make sure that we have, again, that continuity. I don't want to do 300,000 and then come back. I think that we need to be willing to match that in order to make sure there is continuity with the efforts of getting grant funding to never have to match that. But at this point in time, I think that just letting it go is too detrimental to our community and the efforts that we've been making. So again, I think that there's been a little bit more information provided between when this was submitted to now with the RFP and the HAP funding available, but I still wanted to have that conversation and direct staff saying, yes, this is something we want to keep going, or no, this is something maybe we want to review before we keep going, or just not at all.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Well, I recognize the importance of having this facility, but how do we keep it going? Who's going to run it? I know there's funding here and there is an RFP, but I think we have to wait until we have somebody that is going to step up and run it, because we can't staff it right now.
And again, there's 2 RFPs for people who are interested in running it. That needs to go through the process. And some of this information, again, came out after the Thursday submission or Friday submission. But I think we're going to come right back to the same place in a matter of time, because 300,000 goes fast. And will the state be ready where we've not only submitted it, but we've actually received the payments from the state? Those things are for sure. As far as getting funding from the state, it's a matter of time, and that on-off is not healthy. So it's mainly direction that I was looking for today, but that was it.
And so thank you for that, and thank you for bringing this forward. I will first refer to the letter that was given to us, I want to say around July. I have a copy of it, sorry. It was July 11th when they stated that they would, the group stated that they would be leaving on September 4th. and that they were running out of funding from that point forward. I know I had a brief conversation with Justin Amon, and he notified me that they were, in fact, going to leave, and that also there was, they were going to continue working as a SLE in Lucerne, and that they were using their own funding for that, and something along the lines of HHAP funds for, I want to say Housing Navigator or whatever the case may be. An interesting note, though, is when it was proposed before, it was never stated that when it was first brought forward. It was brought forward as an area for an administration type of office, and so now it's the scope has changed. And of course, this isn't referring to the juvenile hall, but it's in the letter that notified us that we were leaving. And so I won't go too far into that, but one of the things is reporting requirements. I know that in the contract, I'm looking at the contract, Director Metcalf, and at the end it basically states that the oversight and you would basically be the person to be reviewing this contract and seeing if anything that's been conducted by the group you would be looking at, or you would have that oversight. And so I do have numerous questions about reporting requirements. You know, I know that in some of these statements, it states that they should come back and show projected performance measures, you know, annual expenditure reports. I know in the letter it states a specific number. It doesn't break down the actual amounts. And so I think a lot of concerns revolve around the fact that some of these aren't broken down to a point that give, you know, what a lot of people want to see. So I won't go too far into it. I'll just state that for now, and I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to that, but I know.
I do have quarterly reports. I can certainly get those to the board, and any other additional information, I can certainly get my hands on it.
All right, thank you. Just one last thing is I know that the night that they stated when I talked to, or actually the night after my town hall, there was a group that was supposed to come and discuss something about the Lucerne. However, I still took it upon myself to go over to the juvenile hall. When I went there, there was just 3 homeless guys there. There was no one else there when I went. So I just kind of found that odd when I went there.
There's no staff there?
There was no staff that came to the door. I asked the gentleman to go get the staff. He said he didn't know where he was, and that he's probably asleep or he'll find out, and it never took place. So that was interesting to me. So I just wanted to note that. That was very disheartening to see that, regardless of what. So anyhow, I won't go too far into that, but I will just note that. I see Todd, Melissa, is she part of the, yeah.
My Melissa?
Yes, I see a hand up in attendees, and so maybe she has something to add to this.
And before Melissa speaks, what I'm hopeful with this is, I know Todd's been working behind the scenes. Director Metcalf's been working behind the scenes, and I hope that in the future, with direction, that he could come back to us rather than trying to work within the restrictions of what he has in his budget or the restrictions of what he has from the grants, so we can have this discussion sooner than later. Just because I do feel like this is not something that Director Metcalf should be working on alone, especially when it's finding ways to fund this and make it happen. I think just bringing it to a discussion sooner than later is probably the better way to go. But I think with the changes that have occurred since this was submitted, that we can just give that simple of a direction and hope that with the RFP process that's currently in place, that can at least attempt to resolve it. But one of the things that I'm hopeful Director Metcalf can either let us know now, or again, when it comes down to approving the contract, is this hurting any agency wanting to take part, when right now we're only looking at a finite amount of money? Because that's a heavy lift to figure out how to staff this program, knowing that you only have a certain amount of money to use, not knowing how long you're going to be there. And I think the more we can show longevity, the easier it will be to find people that will have a long-term program over there.
Yes, and something that I keep saying around this, and it actually came up in last week's Housing Continuum Care meeting. And Supervisor Sabatier, I appreciate you bringing this to the Board of Supervisors, but I think it's bigger than, it's more than just a county problem. It's a community problem that we all need to come together and figure out how to do this. And yes, I had had some side conversations with a couple of organizations that expressed interest in taking this on, but the funding piece is the trouble. That's the biggest hurdle of this thing is the money. I know that the couple of organizations I spoke to would be very interested in operating it, but it's just financially they can't handle it. So it's more than what the county of Lake can handle. We need to have bigger conversations with other organizations about this to get creative and figure out how can we pull this off.
Vice Chair, did you have your pen up?
Well, I have a question about the funding. Where are you anticipating this coming from?
There's always the possibility of reviewing our ARPA. That's a possibility. I know that we have some money set aside as well in our budgets. There's definitely money available, but there has to be a plan that goes along with that money because this is not a bottomless pit of funds that we have either. But I think for helping us hold out until the California funds come to us, that would be a possibility, and I think that could be afforded by us.
All right, let's see if there's any, oh, sorry, Supervisor Simon, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll just state it right off the bat. Obviously, I was in favor of this during the being a emergency COVID shelter as we move forward. So in support there. So for the simple request today, I think for staff to look and see with Behavioral Health Director Todd Metcalf to come back with a plan how we move forward. I think it's really important. So obviously in support of that, I like some of the ideas you've already thrown out there, but we need to have that plan in place. We really need to gather all the information it's taken over the last 2 years, get that budget broken down and those types of things, because our partner is going to be the state. And we need to have that information as we're doing this, just like we were talking earlier about really maximizing our funds. Here's our skin in the game right now that we're looking at, and this is a program we want to keep moving forward. So obviously in favor of at least listening and being prepared as we move forward as these funds are coming down. We're doing it with the roads. We're doing it with, everything else, trying to have a plan in place as we're moving forward. And with this, there are billions of dollars. We need to have that plan in place, a budgeted idea, potential partners, which you're doing with the RFPs. So yeah, I'm in favor of staff to come back with some suggestions, maybe 6 months to 12 month, because who knows how long it takes to get the regulations done. Even when the money is said it's coming, it takes a while to get all that stuff worked out. You've already suggested some ideas where it might come from, but looking at those opportunities, I think, are real important and having something put together. So I'm in favor of, yes, bringing something back to talk about as a full board.
And I do want to remind you from our last budget discussion that our end of the year balance was 12 million, 10 million. And so those are unspent funds that mostly because of our vacancies and other savings here and there, but not doing something when we have $10 to $12 million that rolls over into the following year is something I'd rather not see. I'd rather see us attempt to do something, but with a plan.
Yep, I'll just follow up on that. I'll wait for staff to say where these things are coming from, what budget unit, because there's so many things that need addressing in the county. Obviously, homelessness is one of those. That's very important. I'll wait to hear staff before I start throwing numbers out there, because sometimes people take that in a different way when they only catch a part of the meeting. They're like, oh, got the, so I'll wait for staff to come back with those numbers and say, here's a suggestion of some budget units that may have an opportunity to help with this. But this is a huge, this is double beneficial. Everyone that is on the street costs us money, through the hospitals, through everywhere. Having this opportunity, I think, is really big. And being a small county, when we do go to the state, say, listen, we've stepped up, we've done these things, now we need your help. We're not asking for a handout, we're asking for a hand up. So here's our program, we put it together. come give us the help we need.
And I'm probably going to shoot myself in the foot with what I'm going to say, but bringing this back in 6 months, especially considering, the RFP that we had two responses to.
I didn't say bring it back in 6 months.
That could go towards a shelter. I'd rather get my staff and whoever I need to working on putting a plan together so that whoever, if one of these two bidders are awarded these funds to operate a shelter, that we don't waste any time.
No, that wasn't my statement, Todd. My statement was like a 6-month budget, 12-month budget. If it comes next week.
I'm sorry.
Or 3 weeks from now, I wasn't saying come back in 6 months. I was just saying be prepared. Come back with options so we can look at that to, as a board. So I wasn't saying delay on it. We need it now. So that was my comment. I just want to make that very clear to you.
No, thank you. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I'm all over it.
All right, and in doing so, I just would really like to see a lot more reporting mechanisms and oversight of how the money's spent, and it's spent on the community that needs the most. Sometimes the vagueness isn't really helpful, so I just would appreciate that. I know from my standpoint, I'm pretty sure the board feels that way too, but I'll let them speak for themselves. But I just want to highlight that, and if there's any contract revisions that can help with that, it would be very greatly appreciated as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other comments from the board?
No, just that our budget hearings are coming up, and I think that's an appropriate place to continue this conversation.
All right. All right. So at this time, it looks like I will open it up to the public. If there's anybody that would like to speak on this item, please come to the microphone or raise your hand in Zoom, and we'll give you 3 minutes to speak.
Joey Lewis, Kelseyville. This is the longest public meeting I've been in 10 years. Thank you for the entertainment. Anyway, thank you, Supervisor Spatier, for bringing this. I don't know, I will make the public aware. I was the assistant manager of this shelter for the first 8 months of operation, and then it quickly and abruptly ended when Elijah House took over. We wouldn't be having this conversation if Elijah House had met their obligations that they promised this community in the first place. They were going to come in and be this great nonprofit with these resources to help transition it from an emergency shelter to a self-sustaining, finding other funding, all these big promises, and they did none of it. And then they continued the lie. That letter you received, okay, I was in every single board meeting with the initial organization going over the weekly budget, going over how much money it costs to run the shelter. $75,000 is a lie. Where's the money going? Where is it going? So before you guys can even move forward, and I agree, it is a good use for that facility. It is a great facility. The idea is awesome. But let's not put criminals in charge of it again. And let's find out how much of this money should be coming back. They said they're looking for 6 months of reimbursement. Ridiculous. So account for the cost of what they've done, because it doesn't add up. We never went at the Record B building, we never went over $40K a month in expenses, and a lot of things are donated. Most of it is staffing, of course. And that was including the rent on the building, a facility that wasn't made for housing people, that's very inefficient, and the energy costs, and we were still able to make it work. So where is this money going? They're not paying rent. It's a more efficient building made for housing people. I just don't get it, and I wish this board and this county would look into that. Also, the management is posting up how they're running around in limousines and flying in company jets or planes and cars, and a few of those things have been taken off social media all of a sudden, probably right after that Record B article came out this week. So let's look into that. Why did we let them lie about Lucerne? I told them at the Lucerne Town Hall not to trust this organization, And what did they do? They put a different use in the building. Apparently, it's tied to their at-work program. Another thing to be concerned about is I had on my radio show Saturday somebody who was on that program that's saying that some of the things they were doing did not meet state law as far as labor laws. Look into that. And finally, one last thing, I know my time's up. I did tell Tina Scott about all these concerns. She was my supervisor at the time, representing me. I'm not going to beat her up that much. She's not here anymore. But she was aware of all this 2 years ago. And instead of doing the right thing and moving this board to look into this organization, she gets her kid a job there instead. We need a lot of answers before you can have a sustainable program again. Let's not make the same mistakes again like we did allowing this lying, corrupt organization in to run and to basically prey on our homeless. So thank you.
Thank you, Joey. Are there any other comments? And I'm looking on Zoom, I'm not seeing any hands up. Sir?
My name is David Santos, former president of Adventist Health Clear Lake, presently working with Tribal Health. I'm not here representing either of those organizations. I was actually here to present the next item on the agenda, but I have to respond to what I just heard. It's very important when you speak publicly that you speak with facts and that you speak with accuracy, and not personal vendettas or personal sour relationships that went south. And so you have to look at this entire topic very carefully, with balance, objectivity, and I think you have to look at this organization's track record. I, for one, had a family member twice as a resident with this organization. I can speak very highly of this organization. Did wonders for my son. So for every story that goes south, there's a story that goes north. And I, for one, know many families that have benefited from this organization. I cannot speak for what happened in Lakeport, and neither do I want to try. I just want it to be clear and on the record that this organization has experienced lots of success in addressing, I don't know about necessarily homelessness, but certainly those who suffer from mental health and substance abuse. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from the public? And I'm looking online as well. I don't see any hands up. All right, so I'll close public input and bring it back to the board. I think this is discuss and direct staff, and I think, Todd, does it look like you have the direction you need?
Yes, I've been writing it down.
All right. So, did you get, go ahead, Supervisor.
I'll just say that in putting this agenda item, it was in my mind of moving forward, not looking in the past. I think that we have information that obviously we're going to be looking into exactly what happened and kind of better understand. But I know that Supervisor Scott was not the only one you reached out to. You forgot to mention that you also reached out to me. I did look over their financials, and I was not able to find anything to say that there was something out of the ordinary from what I can understand when I looked through it. And so I'm hopeful that we will be transparent, and that as we move forward, we learn and being better at being transparent to make sure that everything is aware for the public to see. And for us to understand exactly what's happening. I think it's important for all of our contracts to be held accountable for what we expect from them, and that there's transparency that allows for the public trust to be there. So I think that's always important for us to move towards that. But yes, I believe that we have the direction that I was hoping that we would get, and I appreciate the conversation and the support to want to continue programs like this in our community, as it's still absolutely needed.
All right. If there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and close this item. Yeah, we can take a short break if you'd like. And we will take a 5-minute break. Sound good?
That was a big question.
Not getting it. All right, we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll be back at 3:20.
I don't think they're open on Tuesdays. Because we go to late meetings, I try and take one home too, once in a while, because what's that bacon honey one we do? Oh, man. You can't go wrong with bacon honey.
Nothing with bacon. Bacon's perfect.
Whatever else comes with it, I'm already sold.
I don't care what else goes with it.
All right, welcome back. It's 3:20. We'll go ahead and move on to our next item on the agenda, which is 7.3, consideration of presentation, discussion, and direction regarding behavioral health treatment facility for youth and grant opportunity. This is brought to us by Supervisor Sabatier.
Unfortunately, Mr. Santos stepped out. There he is. If you could please come to the podium. I'm going to introduce you and introduce the subject. If you, the podium should be good. The podium right on the other side.
Oh, over here?
Yeah. Okay. And so I got a phone call about, I want to say 3 weeks ago from Mr. Santos, who already introduced himself in the previous public comment. And he was very passionate about bringing some new facility needs here, understanding the gaps that exist within our healthcare system. And specifically, he was talking about substance abuse facilities for age groups 0 to 25, young families, and so on. We know that during the pandemic, we've seen from what Director Metcalf has told us, an increase of 300 to 400% in the need and request for substance abuse services. We also know that in Lake County, there is a lack of resources when it comes to substance abuse resources. Along with Mr. Santos, there was Bob Gardner, Dr. Bob Gardner, that was involved in the conversation, Lori Runyon, I think I'm saying the right name, last name. So Hilltop Facilities was highly involved in the conversation. They were looking around Lake County. Where are some properties that we can build a facility and actually create what's needed in this county, fill in the gap of the healthcare system when it comes to substance abuse disorders. And so we've been in conversation, reviewing certain properties. I've had conversations with community development to try and narrow down what those properties could be. I was in communication with Supervisor Crandall, but what comes out is that it might not even be, we're not even looking right now in District 2 or in District 3. There may be some opportunities in the other districts. So I apologize to those supervisors, but at the same time, we have a deadline of August 31st to submit for a grant. And that grant is the Behavioral Health Treatment Facility. No, I said it wrong. It's the Behavioral Health Continuum of Infrastructure Program, and it's round 4. And round 4, we've already utilized round 1, 2, and 3 with behavioral health. Round 4 allows for the construction of a facility. It allows for the planning, the construction, and the development. And all of those funds that can be obtained from the state could be utilized for every single one of those steps. And so the opportunity is here. There was a question of, so right now, Mr. Santos is in the works of getting the nonprofit Hope Health approved by both the Secretary of State in the state of California and at the IRS level for the federal government. That has not been accomplished 100% yet, and in speaking with those that released the grant funding at the state level, they offered that join with the county and see if it's possible for them to help you out. There is some percentage that can be going to administrative fees. So if we say yes to being the fiscal agent, we would be compensated and being able to utilize some of those fees for whatever services we're putting in. But the idea is in the long run, once the nonprofit is complete, to pass it on back to the nonprofit and help them with the, not help them with the project, but support the project in ways to make sure that it comes to fruition and be a partner in making sure that this project happens. Right now, the only ask is to support the project and the grant opportunity. There's 2 possible options. One is to say, yes, we can be the fiscal agent and move forward with that. Or number 2 is just writing a letter of support. And If we only do number 2, they would have to go to Plan B, which is really difficult to do with only 8 days left before the deadline of the grant, which is to find another nonprofit or another government group to be able to support this. I don't see this as a loss. I know that there is absolute support coming from behavioral health. And I've spoken and sat down also with our CAO Parker, who sees this project as a very possible and very positive project as well. We want to reduce the liability on the county as much as possible, but at the same time, I cannot have this project brought to me as an idea and then just walk away from it. I think it is an opportunity, and I'd love for it to happen. So without having stolen too much of your thunder, I'd love to pass it on for Mr. Santos to present to you his dream, his vision, and what this project entails.
Thank you, Supervisor Batier. I know you as Bruno, but that's okay. It's all good. I think you did a wonderful job of introducing this concept and this plan. It really is not about me or my dream. It's something that really was brought to me by a grant writer that was looking at different grants in Lake County and has written grants, many grants like this for Lake County. And it really caught my attention. As I spoke earlier, it's both personal and professional perspective. I'm passionate about this. I have been for quite some time. In my previous job and role, we were all about really trying to figure out how to transform the health status of Lake County. This was one big missing piece, really breaking the cycle of poverty and poor health. Really starts even before the child is born. This grant addresses the 0 to 24 age category. And what's so exciting about it is that there's such a great need in Lake County that a facility, say a 70-bed facility, that's really addressing, say, ages 13 to 17, the minors, and then there's the 18 to 24, and another part of a 50-acre plus piece of property that's really first class and provides these comprehensive integrated services that truly give hope. Thus, the title of our budding 501c3, Hope Health California. It's really about starting this in Lake County and doing this in a manner that truly provides the kind of wraparound services and the very specific behavioral health services that are complemented by substance abuse recovery activities and programs, all contained in this residential program is what this grant is all about. And so we have secured a $1 million gift from the potential sellers. We actually have 2 properties. Both sellers have made this offer. The primary property that we're looking at today and ready to submit as part of the grant is a parcel of property 4 miles outside of Lower Lake on Morgan Valley Road. And the 2 parcels together that are adjacent are 50 acres. A beautiful 3,000 square foot home sits on this property with a swimming pool, a big cement deck for these residents to enjoy. It's a commercial kitchen. So that little piece of the property is already intact. And then there's this very large structure that's well built, and it's really perfect for training, whether it be winemaking or welding or auto mechanics, woodworking. There's lots of opportunity in this property to build out additional structures, including mini dormitories. So the matching dollars between the gift by the potential seller and Redbud Health District has made a sizable gift, together combined represents $16 million of potential state funding. 1.6 translates tenfold into 16 million. And we have a request out that's pending, and we expect to hear in the next 48 hours from a health plan that is looking at a sizable donation also that could get us upwards of $20 million of state funding for this project. So I'm going to pause there. There's lots more to talk about. I believe you have a PowerPoint that was already submitted to you prior to this meeting today, to this board meeting, and it's very detailed. If you turn to the next page, keep going. That's kind of the 2 title pages. This next page.
I'm trying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I give this to you too?
There you go.
I'm too far.
It's okay.
Go back up.
There you go, right there. This is kind of the business map. It's a very busy side, so hopefully your eyes don't get lost from one side to the other. Going from left to right, a listing of key partners. Back up to the top next column, target population. We've talked about some of this already. Core activities. Really, it's about prevention, intervention, treatment, recovery, and it's not just this residential property and program that we're talking about. We were going to do outpatient services throughout the county. And so as depending upon how the next grant, the next phase 5 of these 6 grants go, we look to apply for further funding in the next round, which is really crisis treatment and prevention. So we look to add to what we're already submitting this round. Campus facility, I told you about the 2 possibilities. In project startup phases, we're talking about 3 phases over 3 years. And as you can see, community wellness and prevention is phase 1, outpatient services is phase 2, and residential services is phase 3. I don't believe it's going to take 3 years to get there. I truly believe we can open our doors in less than half that time. And as the health plan that's considering a gift to us yesterday told me, they anticipate this facility opening up full the day it opens, based upon the need in Lake County. So I'm going to stop there and ask if there's any questions, because the rest of the slides basically drill down deeper into each segment, each element of this slide.
And you mentioned 2 sites. You only described 1. Do you want to describe the second site?
Sure. If we need to go to the second option, it's a 330-acre site that previously housed a similar residential program in Cobb Mountain.
Thank you.
That site burned down during, the 16 fires, Valley Fire, which one?
Are you talking about Hobart's?
No.
No, a different one. In
No.
2015.
In 2015. So, yes. I don't know that, it was Hilltop. Yeah. And they moved to,
Up on Sock.
the north.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Clear Lake Oaks.
Yeah, moved to Clear Lake Oaks.
That was a 300-person facility?
300 acre.
Oh, 300 acre, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like. that-
Kind of in
that was
between the
300 people
cooling
there, 'cause I know I
towers.
housed quite a few folks in that rehab there. We had a good.
They had up to 70 residents at one
Yeah.
time.
So the nonprofit's Hope Health California, is that going to be operating outside of Lake County?
It's going to
The
what?
nonprofit, is that going to operate outside of Lake County?
No. Well, I can't predict years down the road, but 501c3, Hope Health, Northern California, serving Lake County. At this point in time, that's the only plan.
Okay. Just like one other little thing, when you were talking about one of the campuses that you were going to do winemaking?
No.
That's for addicts?
So there's vineyards on the property.
Okay.
And so that's a good question, right? But it's not distributing wine, it's a trade, right? Winemaking is a trade just like anything else is. We're not serving wine, we're not advocating wine. If that were to happen at some point, maybe it's only for the 18 to 23-year-olds, right? Or 24-year-olds. I don't know. It's just one of the options. let's not that be a roadblock in any way, shape, or form. I don't drink wine myself. I'm not, an advocate of, in any way, shape, or form, promoting alcohol to our residents.
So where's the liability for the county if we take this on fiscally?
So I believe that in the beginnings, it would be the reporting factor for any grant and the administrative burden of dealing with the grant. And so I think that CAO Parker, or she's waiting for Stephen Carter to respond, but I think that those would be the general burdens or liabilities that would come into that. I would assume that the process to become a nonprofit would be complete prior to maybe receiving the funds of the grant, or at least prior to any major action being taken. But I don't know the timeline right now. I know that CAO Parker did look at round 4, and that it was approved at one point, and that it was another 4, 5, 6 months later that they were still working on getting some of those funds. So it may take a while. But during that time process, the Hope Health nonprofit is going through its motions, and with our name attached to the grant, it would provide the leverage maybe needed to obtain the grant so that we can bring this into the county.
So then what is the administrative burden that we're looking at?
If we could look to the last slide, that will share the request. Right there. So partner as the applicant entity for the grant. So your name will be on the application as the entity, because we're 501c3 applicant pending.
Mm-hmm.
And then provide site control, guaranteeing and ensuring that basically this property is used for the intended purposes, right? Administer grant funds to the project as needed. As Bruno indicated, I don't know if that's going to be necessary outside of probably taking the funds and paying the seller of the property. And then there's going to be maybe some additional costs early on, but once that 501c3 status is approved, we believe that everything could be shifted over to the 501c3 for operating purposes as well as funding oversight. And then assist with planning, zoning, and licensing. I mean, as needed, if we have some questions, our contractors or engineers have questions, where the zoning issues maybe come up, maybe public hearing is requested. I don't know to what extent you would, get involved with that.
And as far as that goes, I don't believe that would be any different than any other developers coming in with the project when it's
And then finally, consider local funding alignment for the project. That's just asking you to consider if there's road work or some other project that might aid this project in coming to fruition. But we have nothing specific in mind right now at this point.
Stephen?
Well, my main concerns are related to the liability for the county. I definitely understand that we would be the main applicant at this point, which means we would be on the hook for anything that went wrong with the project. So if we purchased the property, that's a pretty simple one. But if they did any kind of upgrades to the property and didn't go through the proper purchasing procedures, et cetera, it can be taken back and they would come back from us, not from the 501c3C. Now, if it is possible to transfer it to them from the county, then that would release us of the liability, but I'm not sure if that is something that can be done or not. I'd have to look into it.
And so my hope is today to direct staff to continue working with David Santos in order to ensure that we reduce that liability and not lose out on this opportunity in order to try to create something that obviously we do not have.
And I do want to say it sounds like an awesome project for the county.
Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, obviously, talking about a youth treatment facility, I think is very important, but, we're always presented with big ideas as we're trying to bring something into the county. Me, I always try and look at it a practical, step-by-step operation. I think the biggest hurdle right now is, this is due August 30th, the application, the grant deadline, right? Or you guys have already submitted it, and you're waiting for your 501c3 status to be approved. And I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but there's no guarantees that is going to happen. And I don't think you can stand here and guarantee that's going to happen because you don't approve that and we don't approve that. So I'm going to complicate things even more here. I always like, if we're going to get into something, or if the county's going to take on some liability, that's something that we know we have in hand. We just had a huge conversation about using the old juvenile hall as a homeless shelter. So that funding is up in the air. We're not 100% sure that's going to happen. We want it to. I completely agree with that. I think the only way I could say by August 30th that I would be willing to vote, why wouldn't we use that facility to be the first youth center, go after the grant money there, get something started, get it going in the county, and then go from there. Now, I know we were just talking about it being a homeless shelter, but I like having something in hand. You're talking about the donation of this property owner. It looks like the property's 3.6, am I wrong on that? Like, worth 3 million something, or am I wrong?
No.
Because I was looking through here.
The first property is, property Oak Haven is 1.9 million.
1.9 million, okay, and they're gonna donate like half of it, is what you're saying, $1 million. So, yeah, it's a tough one, because I like the juvenile hall being something we own, that we could say, here's our skin in the game state, we want to take these first steps. I think the bigger plan and the bigger idea, I agree with it there, but, if the 501c3 was set up and you were just looking for a support letter, I think it'd be a little bit easier. So I don't want to complicate anything a whole bunch more. I just, have concerns the way we're asking to move this through right now, because, man, it's going to take on another liability, and I know we have another, I'm not intermingling things, but we have another big dream project that is green, right? The FLASH program that we're trying to move forward with, that we have a liability now if we don't go forward with it eventually, if we're found in the right. So this kind of takes me down that same path, and that's what I'm struggling with. So I know I hate to confuse things, but I say we own that juvenile hall facility, and I don't know how many beds could be in there, but it was a youth facility before, and if you could take baby steps to get into these things, I think that's an opportunity. So anyway, I'm complicating it all, but I don't care, I already said it. So it is what it is. So those are my thoughts, those are my concerns. I already have stuff in the back of my mind. I see your vision, I do see that. But by August 30th, man, I wish we'd had some more stuff laid out from behavioral health, some more conversations happening on what we're doing. And maybe those conversations we're just not hearing, I haven't heard it yet today, on how we move forward. But the youth treatment facility, very important. Like I said, on the tribal side, we fought for 30 years to get a place. We finally got one built for all of California tribal youth in Colusa County or Yolo County, right over by DQ University. That is up and operating now, but it took us, the vision started 22, 23 years ago, and it got built last year. So those are my concerns, and I know this is different, but youth treatment is real important. Sorry to complicate it, but I did. It was a juvenile facility before, so that's my vision with it. Sorry to throw my vision on top of yours.
No, it's okay. You can have your vision. You're the supervisor. I just want to add a couple of things, right? I don't have a big dog in this hunt, right? I want this for Lake County. I want this for those who I know could benefit from this in Lake County. And I know we're not a 501c3 today. This grant opportunity came to us just 2 months ago. So we've been working through the steps of completing all of the nuances. There's still some additional documentation that needs to be completed by next Tuesday, and the county would have to help us with that piece. But I can tell you it's not that much. I mean, we have done all the legwork. There's that one piece that's going to represent the applicant entity for the grant. That is an administrative grant of the administrator of the grant. So those are two issues. If you can't see your way through past those two issues because of liability, there's nothing more that we can do. But I can assure you that this 501c3, to my line of sight, I don't see how it cannot be approved. I was part of an integral piece and part of the Hope Rising process, so I understand the 501c3 process. This is, there's a very small chance this fails. The state is very much excited about this project for Lake County, and so are many of the supporters that you see on our list of stakeholders, including Department of Behavioral Health for Lake County.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Well, related to the property, you do need the 10% match, correct? To go forward for these funds?
Yes.
So that's where utilizing the 1 million match from the other property.
I need to be clear about what you asked, because when I answered your question, you then clarified, and I didn't want to interrupt you. But the property actually is $1 million more than 1.1. We're selling it. We're buying it for 2.8, and $1 million is coming back. So he gets 1.8, but the property will sell for 2.8. So if the total 20 million, say we get 20 million, the owner gets 2.8.
Yeah, I saw the $1 million donation of the property value. That's why I thought it was the 3.6.
There's another property. I don't know which property you're looking at, but there's another.
No, it's in your proposal here. So I did see the $1 million donation of the property owner. So I saw that being an in-kind donation and those types of things. I'm not sure what our juvenile hall.
Yes,
appraised
so
for, but
what you're looking there is the property, that's the other property, 3.9.
I would suspect so.
About 3.
So I put it out there, and like I said, I'm not saying it won't be approved one way or the other. These are the hurdles that I would have. It says discuss and direct staff, I know we put another meeting on the agenda next week, and we're trying not to fill it up. So I'm open, but I'm just putting it out there right now that makes it hard for me to move forward with this decision, you heard me say, this is needed in Lake County, but how do we get there? We don't want to convolute it or make the trail harder than it needs to be for us to get there. So my thought would be, we heard it again on the 30th. I'm open, but these are hurdles that I have in looking how we move forward with this. Right off the bat, I'm letting you know.
Who was first? Supervisor Sabatier, then Supervisor Pikes.
I'll go first.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, I do, this is an important need that we have. I have family members also impacted, and, we have to get here at some point, and I want to make sure that staff has the time to figure out how to get comfortable with this. It's kind of dropped in our lap here at the last minute, and there's obviously concerns. And if we can take this next week to get to a place where everybody's more comfortable in it, then I think I can move forward. But right now, I think there's still a few more things to be researched and fleshed out and figured out.
Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
And I appreciate being open to the suggestion or the idea, because obviously I don't think any of us are looking at this as, no, we don't need this. It's a matter of what is the best way to move forward so that there's the least potential impact to the county when it comes to staff and our finances. And that was exactly my conversation with CAO Parker, sitting down and trying to figure out how do we minimize this, how do we get it completely gone. And just a quick question for you, David. is it possible to hold off and not purchase anything and just put our name on the grant so that it gives you time to get your nonprofit, and then we just hand it over, and then you can go through the purchasing of the properties and everything else that you need. And at that point, we touched no money other than being an intermediary, where we're just helping put a name on the grant, where within the grant, it speaks specifically about transferring it over to Hope Health once Hope Health is a bona fide nonprofit.
So as I understand the grant requirements, we have 4.5 years to spend all the money. So if we have 4.5 years, if 501c3 application approval takes 4.5 years, we're all in trouble, right? So I would suspect that, you know, maybe within 6 months, we could be ready to purchase that property. And I don't think the owners would have a problem with that.
And at that point, we may not even have the grant funds, depending on what the kind of timeline the state of California has. Because
I'm willing to say yes to that
because I think if we do it that way, it reduces it just about 95+% of what is the burden that we're asking our staff. And I know that there's the possibility of asking our administrative office to help us out with that, or I know that Director Metcalf has offered to also help out with that. I know that everybody is stretched thin, but if that's a possibility and we see that as an absolute reduction in what kind of liability and what kind of burden that might be, it still allows us to try for this opportunity. And I don't disagree with the idea of juvenile hall. You're right. It used to be a place for young people in the first place.
The difference, though, if I could just add, between juvenile hall and this piece of property is like summer and winter. You just really can't compare the two. And if you're looking for outdoors and you're looking for land, horseback riding, hiking, I'm not going to add anything else like archery because I don't want to, you know, get myself in trouble here. But, you know, you understand what I'm saying here. It's just outdoors, it's nature, and it's the environment where healing can take place.
And I'm wondering if, Mr. Carter, I see you making some shaking of your head, wondering if you can express that verbally on the change in liability with that consideration.
Yes, I would not think there's a lot of liability on our side if we wait to expend at least most of the funds after we transfer. Go ahead, Susan.
Well, I was going to wait till you were done.
Okay.
So I have something that I would like your board to consider. Given the fact that this could address a great need in our county, I recommend that we work with Mr. Santos. We need to see the actual standard agreement that goes along with the grant application. We need to see the grant application. We also need to talk to the state about even if transferring is an option. We want to make sure that before we go much further. And I think it also needs to be legally reviewed by our county council before the board makes this type of decision. And probably with the auditor controller's office too. And then we can place it on the 30th.
Supervisor Simon? And that's just another concern. It's a big project to pick up between now and next Tuesday. I mean, you know, how do we get to that point? So I would say for me to give that direction, you guys said you did a lot of the heavy lifting. You got to do all the lifting if we're going to get there in coordination with our admin office and you know, everybody. It's you know, that's the real challenge I think I have right now with it. Well, you guys have the challenge, you know, to get us to that point where we could make a decision, or Anita could say, all right, the liability you guys have asked to be taken off the table has at least been rectified to a reasonable point. And
so I'm assuming
a lot of work to be done. So, like I said, I'm open to the 30th, but man, I don't know. All right.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I would just like to say that I believe my grant writer's listening in on this. She's probably emailing the state as we speak to see if that transfer can take place. We will do all the lifting that we can, and we will start communicating with you tomorrow morning if this board approves us to go forward in trying to bring this to fruition so that you can consider it next Tuesday. I mean, obviously, if we can't bring it to fruition by next Tuesday, there's nothing to be considered, right?
Right.
But if we can, then we at least won't miss the deadline because we've been working on it since, between now and then.
Vice Chair Pyska.
So we're looking at the capacity with admin and county council, and we have not heard from Director Metcalf yet, and I'm wondering if he's online and can help us by weighing in on this.
Thank you, Supervisor Pyska. There's really not much more I can add. I mean, I did already submit a letter of support for this project, and what was mentioned earlier as far as trying to help with maybe an administrative lift, my department could only do so if these funds could be used to perhaps hire someone to do the work. That's kind of what I meant by supporting it at an administrative level. But as long as there's money behind it, we could probably do it. But obviously, I can't say anything that hasn't already been said. This is a much-needed project, and please include me in any meetings about how we could possibly move this forward.
All right. Any other comments?
Is Todd referring to, is Todd referring to the next week, or you're talking about beyond that, Todd? You need funding for the next week to help us, and that's not even a possibility.
No, I'm talking if awarded these funds, moving the thing forward, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Anyone.
All right. Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
I would love to see, I think there's some simple questions of first, can it be transferred? If the answer is no, obviously, there's no need to spend any more time. Then all the other questions can go along after that to slowly, okay, this is not a possibility to continue. It doesn't have to be a full workload all the way till the next agenda is posted. There's very specific questions that can stop the process before you have to go through the entirety of the process. And hopefully it's easier to get to that final conclusion than it may be.
Ms. Grant?
Yes, there are some threshold questions that can be answered, but a thorough review of the document still has to be undertaken. And that's possible by the 30th. I'm not going to suggest it's not. We can, in my office, we can do it. I'm sure admin can do it, but we do have to review the documents, and then we'll be able to give your board some specific advice on the 30th, and you can make your decision then.
So I would like to go in that direction, and I know it makes it tight for everybody from finishing up the grant application to getting everything ready for us before the 30th. But again, it's one of those things where I wanted to bring this to the board just because I'd rather bring it and not have it happen than not bring it at all and never know if it could have happened. At least we're going through the paces.
I just have one question. Why didn't we find out about this sooner?
So I've been in conversations with state leaders, county leaders over the last month plus, but this was the date that we decided we would bring it here based upon a number of factors. We would have liked to bring it sooner, but we weren't able to get it here on the agenda.
And there was a feeling of certain things needed to be accomplished prior to bringing it, such as dwindling it down to what properties were eligible, because for the grant and everything, you wanted to at least have a more concrete vision rather than a very vague and blank vision.
And there is one more reason. We were not planning on coming to the county. We thought we would have another fiscal agent to lean on and to count on, but we ultimately felt that the state would look much more kindly upon this grant proposal if the county was supportive of it and actually, fulfilling those functions that we identified.
Is that fiscal partner, would that be available if it's not going to work for us?
I can't say no, but we just think that the probability of getting this grant through is just, in the 98th percentile if the county supports it in the ways that we're asking.
Okay.
And I think that if today there was a straight no, then Plan B would be to ask if that other partner was eligible to make that happen by August 30th. At that point, I think that would be too late.
Supervisor Simon?
I just think you need to be working on dual paths, so.
Yep.
Because it could be a no on the 30th from us, so I would just suggest, you don't have to, but just be working on a dual path, because it might be as simple as, well, it didn't work out for us, but we'll gladly do a support letter saying we are highly supportive of this, we need it, we just don't have the bandwidth at this point to put ourselves out there to do that. So I think you should be working both. That's what I would say. That's only my opinion, though.
Well, after listening to you today, I'm certainly going to do that.
And another phone call on your status for 501c3. I don't know who you can call or have your consultant call or whoever, hey, I had a conversation at the board with the county. I know for me, that's a big sticking point, so it never hurts to kind of keep poking and see if something can move along.
All right, any other comments?
Okay.
I have one, just briefly, that, I agree if we can look into this further. I was not approached, but I was contacted by Dr. Gardner about supporting this, and I think it's a great idea. I do. I just know that there's a lot to it, especially with Stephen, with your insight and a lot of the concerns from my colleagues here. But at the same time, I know how needed it is, and so I would be willing to look at it and see where we can go from there without being so much of a, not burden, but so much of a liability, if you will. So, but I am in support.
So what I'm hearing is if we can clear some of these hurdles with administration and legal, that this is coming back on the 30th and there would be a vote. Okay.
And I would say hit the ground running tomorrow with Marianne contacting the admin office.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Well, and briefly, I'm going to have to open it up to public input in case there's someone that is online that wants to comment on this. And you don't see anyone? Neither do I. So I'll bring it back to the board. I think it's direction, right? Okay. So with that, is there anything else to discuss on this? I think we're good. All right. Thank you. And we'll be bringing this back next week, right? Did you need anything else for us to specify or, okay. All right, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Mr. Santos.
Thank you.
All right, last but not least, calendars. And I'll start with Supervisor Simon.
So we get done whenever we get done today. And tomorrow I did have something in the afternoon, the class and comp committee, but I am going to be traveling out of town starting tomorrow for a few days. I'll be back. I'll be here on Tuesday for the meeting, but I'm going to take advantage of taking a little bit of a trip with family. So I'm going to do that the rest of this week. So I'll probably be unavailable at that point. I'm still available by phone and other things before I leave tomorrow. So my calendar is pretty clear until the 30th. So I'll be back here on the 30th.
All right, Supervisor Sabatier.
All right. Looking forward to dinner with my colleagues
Just to
tonight.
follow up on that, just for a notification, I apologize, Supervisor Sabatier, but I did let the chair know that I'd be out of town if something goes on and, they need to respond in my, I asked Supervisor Crandall just to step in there if something, hopefully, nothing happens, but it seems to be every day right now, so, anyway.
And I get to watch it from my watchtower.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So on Wednesday, I have a First Five commission. Then I have a bunch of stuff that Lake County Fire Protection has a board meeting that I'll be attending. I'm meeting with a constituent later on. I don't even know where that came from. And then meeting with the Latinos United of Lake County later on that evening, and then finishing that off with a board meeting over at KUSD, just to keep track of the changes of what's going on at our school district. Starting Thursday off with Judge's Breakfast, Hope Rising up next. I have the RCRC Legislative Call-In session where we have the rapid fire bills that are brought to us and which ones we need to pay attention to. Looks like Blue Zone has invited me as well to an activity later on that evening. I'm not 100% sure if I'll be able to make that, but then I have a housing continuum for continuum of care, dealing also with the 100-day challenge of getting people housed later on that afternoon. And it looks like the 29th is completely blank other than interim CAO meeting as I prepare for a meeting for Tuesday. That's all I got.
Okay. Vice Chair?
I just have a couple things to report out on. Supervisor Simon and I got to see the new helo pods that were brought to South Lake County Fire Protection District, purchased by the fire sirens. They're $35,000 each, so they spent about $70,000. They hold 3,800 gallons of water, which our Firehawk, at high capacity, it has a 1,000-gallon tank on it, but it usually will suck up about 800 gallons. So there's a significant amount of water for several dips in those pods, but they are going to be hooked up to a water source. So there's one in District 1, and there's one that's going to be installed in the Cobb area. With the drought, we don't have as many water sources as we used to have. So it's really important for those helicopters to have quick access to water. So a huge thank you to the fire sirens for getting that project together, and for our South Lake Fire chiefs are always incredibly innovative. They're always forward thinking, and this was another great example of that. So Supervisor Simons has already been installed. I think mine's going to be installed soon. We're looking forward to that. We did have the Point Fire incident this weekend, and we can't thank our fire crews and our law enforcement enough for showing up and doing everything that they do to keep these from being destructive. And we didn't lose any structures. It was a massive effort. And I just continue to thank them for everything that they do, and I'll leave that there. Oh, one last thing that I need to talk to the three of you about is that PG&E informed me offline in a very private meeting, not in a public meeting in our tree mortality task force, that they are no longer going to be hauling logs off with their vegetation management plan. This is a big fight that we got into last winter when we started to wrap our heads around the tree mortality problem. And they're telling me that the program doesn't have the funds anymore to do log hauls. And in the Cobb area, they've hauled off about 3,600 trees. Those are 3,600 trees that are not laying on the ground in our community. So I want to talk with you about this, bringing them in front of this board next month. Probably when you're back, I'm guessing you want to be here for that. So I think you're gone the 13th?
Yeah, that's it.
Which one is September? Okay, so maybe we can plan for the 20th, so I'll reach out to them and see if they can be with us.
That's budgets.
Oh, that's budgets, right. Okay, so maybe it does.
The budgets was 21st and 22nd.
Is it?
It is.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's a regular meeting on the 20th?
Yes.
How's the schedule looking for that day?
Really not.
Can't be as bad as this one.
Yeah.
I think it's urgent that we have this discussion. It's during fire season, it's during our drought, and I don't want to put it off too much, so does that work for you?
I am perfectly fine with that, but I would suggest, and I know that I made the decision to leave for the NACO Economic Mobility Network but please don't stop the progress that needs to happen because I'm not here.
Does the 13th look like a better day? Okay, then let's plan for the 13th then. I just want to give you the opportunity.
I appreciate that.
I think it's time for us to have that discussion here. So that's for my updates, and I'll be reaching out to PG&E and letting them know if they didn't hear. So finally, I have a little bit of time in my schedule. Now, let's see, I have agenda review tomorrow, but I also have this meeting that RCRC set up about fast tripping. But they sent us 2 meeting invites.
They did send us 2.
But I thought I accepted both of them, but I can't find the other one. Did that happen to you too?
I got the one for tomorrow, but I'm not going to make that, so I don't remember what the other day was. I'll have to, if I can find it, I'll let you know.
Okay. So there was a meeting that Supervisor Simon and I had yesterday morning with the RCRC reps about the PG&E outages, and so they've invited us to this next conversation. And apparently there's another one somewhere on my calendar. I don't know where it is. And Thursday we have our home hardening meeting, and the Thursday then at 6 o'clock is the Side Street Market in Kelseyville. Friday, I have my weekly, I'm sorry, the 25th, the home hardening project. I think we're actually going to postpone that because that is going to be during the Planning Commission, and that was our meeting with CDD. So I think that one might be rescheduled anyway. Okay, so Friday morning, weekly planning meeting for home hardening, weekly staff meeting about the weekly staff tree meeting. And then I'm going to be volunteering the entire weekend for the Blackberry Cobbler Festival. I hope everyone comes. It's going to be really fun. And there's all kinds of things going on Friday evening after I'm going to be setting up. In the afternoon, there's a harvest dinner, which I think the tickets have at least gotten close to selling out. That's going to be at Whispering Pines. First annual event for that. Saturday all day, Cobbler Festival at Mountain Meadow venue. Then at 5 o'clock, going through the evening till 10 p.m., is the Cobbler Fest after party at Mandala Springs. I mean, this is a weekend all about being in the Cobb area and celebrating blackberries. So this is really exciting because this is the first big music event that's happening, and Mandala Springs used to always they have a big outdoor stage, and in the past there was really big music events there, and so this is kind of the first big one coming back with local bands, 3 bands. So that's going to go through the evening. There's going to be food and beverages for sale there. And then Sunday morning is a guided hike through bogs with Friends of Bogs, again blackberry themed. Everything, Mountain High Coffee Shop is selling everything blackberry. I think Adams Springs is selling everything blackberry. The whole blackberry weekend. If you guys want to come up, I'm going to be wearing my volunteer shirt, running around the entire weekend.
It's not white, is it?
No, I think it's purple. And then maybe a nap on Sunday. So again, the whole reason that we decided to do this years ago was to remind people that Cobb is still there after the Valley Fire, and that was the original intent around the 50th anniversary of the Valley Fire. But now this is to support all the businesses and bring visitors, bring those visiting dollars into our community, and remind people around Lake County that this is still a really fun, great place to visit. So I might be cross-eyed on Monday, but I'm going to have my call with CAO Parker in the morning regardless, and go from there.
All right. So I have a couple of things to report to. I sent those RC staff members to you and Moak because a lot of what they were asking me, I says they cover this, I know, in risk reduction, because I used to be on it, but I can't give you some of that, so I figured I'd get them to reach out to you because they really want just knowledge. They're going before a committee or to talk about a bill and funding opportunities, things like that. So they wanted to have some first-hand knowledge of some of that. So that's why.
We gave them a lot more than I think they wanted, but yeah, I think we did a good job.
But that's what they need. And as you know, in the ad hoc meeting that we attended, yeah, so they're used to that. So that was after the RCRC meeting. I stayed a little bit after for a minute and talked with them. But before that, so when I got there, initially, Patty Poppe, P-O-P-P-E, Chief Executive Officer for PG&E was there. She did like a soft, welcoming at 8:30 before the meeting, so I didn't get the chance to call in for the for agenda review because I was trying to vie for my time there, which I was emphasizing some of the things we're talking about, especially knowing that there was other people just really chomping at the bit to talk to her. One of the things I did say is, I didn't even expect to talk about it during the meeting when she was talking. However, another supervisor brought it up, so I did. But I brought up the Potter Valley project and the dam, and so I was like, we really want to talk to you about it because what you're told is basically slated in one direction. It's not from, we don't ever get a chance to, tell you our perspective, and there's a lot of things that are told that aren't all the way. Somewhat omission is happening, in my opinion, but we'll talk more about it at that time, and then Rex came in and he had to talk to her. So I just said, okay, I'll talk more to you later. We need to have a meeting though. Us as a Board of Supervisors would really like to have you with us and talk so that we can get some of not just that, but then even what you're talking about. I'm not sure if you can come as soon as September 13th, but we could try.
We talked about that.
Okay.
And he said, my whole day just changed.
So with that, we got into the meeting and Fiona Ma ended up sitting next to me. So I was like, oh, wow. So we had two people there. So her report basically was telling us of some new funding and some new initiatives, Cal Savers, Cal Able, Go Green financing, sales tax exemptions, basically all, basically covering, green, Go Green type of initiatives, things like that. And so Cal Savers is for small businesses, legal or fiscal liability, things of that nature. She referred us to the website to look into it, so I still have yet to do that, but I know that they were there. She left us her number to look into some of these things. I'm like, okay, well, we'll see how it goes, but I just thought I'd mention it because she was there. Then Patty went into discussion, and she really listened to everybody there, and that was great. I think she did the same in other areas as well, but Glenn McGordy from Mendocino County brought up Potter Valley. I didn't really want to because I know there was other supervisors there. I just wanted to talk to her off-site. But when he brought it up, he gave his perspective, and I just basically said, well, in a Venn diagram, we somewhat agree with some of what they're saying, but he stated one thing that I had to make comment of, and it was Lake County hasn't been at the table. And I'm like, no, Lake County has not been at the table. We haven't been given a chance to be at the table. We've done everything that they've asked us to do to sit at the table, but it never happened. So, and I went into a little bit of depth of that and some other things. And so I won't burden you with that. You can ask me afterwards, but I did give our perspective so that his perspective and and no one else really commented about it, just kind of went. She says, well, I'm really going to look into it now because this is the third time I've heard about it. So today, that day. So that basically that was some discussion in there. I also, let's see, there was a lot of more discussion about, what do I got here? Different bills, different Senate bills that are in effect right now. One being one that I think is called 1313, I think, and it's by Cecilia Aguilar Curry. A lot of people are opposed to it, but nobody's really coming out and saying that they want to oppose to it. It involves prevailing wage, and so I know that that's a concern with a lot of rural counties. But anyhow, so that was I feel it was a productive meeting, and I'm hoping that we can get them at the table to talk about some of these things as well. So yeah, it was 1313. I said it right for once. So yeah, there was other reports given, and I can go into depth about those at a later time. So let's see, calendar-wise, I wrote it down right here. Okay. Nope, wrong one. So today, we'll finish today if we do. And Let's see, Board of Supervisors, there we go. And so I got Wednesday agenda review, Lake County LATA discussion afterwards. Thursday, some Upper Lake citizens are coming to the county to discuss some things that we're working on, like a workshop for the Middle Creek Flood project, and talking about some different ways to get the word out about that. There's a RC legislative call at 3. Friday, I will be meeting with some constituents out in Clear Lake Oaks about a couple things, and then Monday morning CAO meeting, and I'll be back here Tuesday. I think I have something else, but I can't think of it at the moment, but that's it for calendars. And so with that, we will go into closed session. Closed session consists of 8.1, public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1, interview of Community Development Director, appointment of Community Development Director, and 8.2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Center for Biological Diversity et al., versus Lake County. With that, we'll go into closed session, and thank you for joining us today. We'll go from there.